Welcome to Ali Fitness Podcast, a weekly production all about bringing health into fitness. Krisstina Wise is a real estate mogul, millionaire coach, and creator of several multi-million-dollar businesses. She's also an international speaker and the award-winning author of the Amazon bestseller, Falling for Money, a romance novel for your bank account. But the reason I'm so excited to have her on the show today is how she went from almost dying in 2013 to building extraordinary wealth and optimal health. You can find Krisstina on her Wealthy Wellthy Life podcast, her free weekly millionaire masterclass, and on her website at Wealthy Wellthy. And it's spelt wealthy and then wealthy as in WELLTHY, which is awesome. Firstly, Krisstina, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. It's such an honor to be here with you.
And I'm having a little chuckle to myself because I know you thought we were just going to have a chat, and I've just told you that actually, no, you're on the podcast. So I love that.
Well, I'm really happy to talk to you and your listeners, and nothing makes me happier than being able to broadcast what I think I know about money. And my passion is that people get really good at it, and money becomes a word that actually brings us a lot of joy to talk about, and knowledge and strategy. So we can use this thing called money as a tool to really improve and impact our lives in a very positive sense, and to really help us move away from some of these negative connotations or triggers we have where most of us have grown up with not knowing about money, or have models maybe are flawed, or the way we learned about money from our parents in our childhood just wasn't all that powerful. So we're really a little bit stuck with that, what I call that money baggage. And so, yeah, I'm just thrilled that we're on a podcast today.
Excellent. And I'm really excited to talk to you about the correlation with health and wealth. But I guess do you mind if we start with your amazing journey about, I guess, health and wealth and how you got to where you are today, and maybe even if we can delve into a bit of the, I guess, not such exciting stuff that happened in 2017 and then, of course, in the earlier 2013.
Yeah, so we all have our life story, and we all have our own novel, which is our life story. So trying to keep it short, what led up to my health crisis a few years back was the idea, where it all started. I grew up very poor and was very ashamed of that poverty. And I mean, it was food stamps, it was school lunch programs, it was high waters, it was, I was made fun of because we came from such a poor background. So in my young adult career, after putting myself through college and doing little entrepreneurial ventures and that type of thing just to make money from a very young age, I got into this thing called real estate, and I earned a really high income. And I thought the answer to all those money problems was to make a lot of money. And so what does any kid do, basically, that grew up with the background I did? When I came into what I call this lottery of income, I just did very well at real estate and made a great income. What did I do? Well, I bought everything that a poor kid can't afford. So I bought the lifestyle that I thought would make me kind of rich and happy. And that worked for a while. I bought the big house. I bought the cars. I bought the vacation home. I bought the boat. I bought the expensive vacations. And then what happened is life happened, which, that happens to all of us at some point. I ended up getting divorced. I was a single mom at that point with 2 kids, and I lost my income making ability because I was 100% commission in this thing called real estate. And I found myself boggled and perplexed, like, how could I be in this place where I cannot put food on the table, where I cannot pay my light bills, moving out of the big house and living in a teeny tiny one side of a duplex in the bad part of town, and how can I not, like I said, pay my bills? And I was baffled, and I was in this place of complete financial despair and crisis, existential despair. Everything was being taken away. I'd lost everything. And I'm a single mom and did not know what to do. And I was $150,000 in debt that I didn't even realize till after the divorce was final, which I don't even know how I didn't know that, but I didn't know that there was $100,000 of tax liens and $50,000 of credit card debt. And I was the one left with that because I was the primary wage earner in that marriage. And so that was my beginning, and I was scared to death and did not know what to do. I mean, I was paralyzed, and it was at that moment, there was just that really low moment that I think, the breakthrough after breakdown, like that breakdown moment of this money thing, I've got to figure this out because I've got to feed my children. I do not want my children to grow up the way I grew up. It was a terrible upbringing and very dysfunctional. And the money crisis in our household caused so many problems and alcoholism and so on and so forth. It's like, I didn't want to do that same thing to my children. And I thought I'd figured it out by making my high income. So I didn't understand how I was in that place. So I made it my personal goal and mission just for my kids. And then for me, that if there was any science to making money, building wealth, not being in the financial situation, financial crisis, if there were money gurus, money experts, money books, money workshops, anything to do with getting good at money, I was going to make it my personal life mission to get good at it. And so that's what I did. And so I went on this rampage to study money, like we would study anything that we're passionate about, not as a career, not to make money at knowing about money, just so that I could produce a better future for my children. And that was the goal. So I 2 decades basically of studying money. Well, what happened is that worked really well in the sense that I learned money, I learned business, I built businesses, I had exits, I built financial wealth, I built passive income, I built assets, I built net worth. And then all that appeared to be working really well until I had this serious health crisis. And what I did is I traded my health for my wealth, and I didn't even know it. I was living a lifestyle that was unsustainable because I was after that money game. I was good at it, but my whole life was about making money and building more businesses and having more success and having more achievement and being in that rat race and going crazy and going wherever the top was. That top wasn't good enough, and I needed to get to the next top and the next top and the next top. And my body couldn't handle it. So that was my biggest lesson, is that when I had a serious health crisis and I nearly died, I mean, I'm really lucky to be here. And it was this really interesting moment to kind of answer your question. Your first question is that I've learned, the first lesson I learned back in, when I was struggling and breaking down with my children and crying and didn't know a way out. My first crisis was, okay, the answer to all my money problems isn't to make more money, because I made a high income and was still broke. So that was my first quest. Now, my second quest and breakdown and then quest was, wow, I got really good at that money game, but life isn't all about the money. Here I am on my deathbed, and I'm realizing that I've missed so much of my life because I was so focused on the money and wealth and building wealth game, and realized that, guess what? My number one asset is my body. And when my body gave out, I couldn't make money anymore. But not even could I not make money or build wealth, I couldn't enjoy my life. And my life was passing right before me. And I had this big aha moment of, oh my gosh, my body in financial terms is an asset. And my first asset I have to take care of, because it's how I make money. It's how I experience my life, is through this thing. So I have to I didn't take care of it. I didn't treat it as an asset. I didn't do self-care. I used it and abused it and pushed it and pushed it. So that was one thing. It was this realization of, in financial terms, which was my kind of personal expertise. My professional expertise was real estate brokerage and real estate investing, but personal expertise was money. So that was it, oh my gosh, my body's my asset, and I hope it's not too late. So we went on this life-saving journey, basically. I'd only been introduced to traditional medicine before that. I wasn't even aware of this integrative, more functional type, sustainable life on the other side. And after many months of, all my hair falling out and losing weight and going crazy and losing my mind and not being able to get out of bed and not being able to finish a sentence and getting worse and worse and worse. What saved my life, and the only reason why I'm here today, is because of that, the money sensibilities and money principles and practices I put into place, because it cost me $250,000, no joke, no exaggeration, to save my life. And I had the money, because I was prudent by putting all those principles in place. And I didn't even know how important those things were until I really needed that money. So that was this realization of being on my proverbial and literal deathbed of, oh my gosh, money is more important than anything. And in my case, it's life or death, and it saved my life. But at the same time, it's not about the money. So if it's not about the money, what is it about? So that brings us to today. After that, I actually just completely pivoted. And when I got a second chance at life, I made it my personal passion to teach people what I had spent, 2 decades of my life learning for my own personal reasons. And prior to my health crisis, had anybody said, if there had been somebody that had a crystal ball and said, Krisstina, 2 years from now or 3 years from now, you're going to be teaching people money and really making an impact here, I would have said, you're crazy. My life is real estate and brokerage and investing, and no way I'd be teaching money. I don't have a money degree. But here I am, and it all came out of that personal journey. And so to close that kind of stream of consciousness is to say that the money game is important. We have to learn it. We have to play it well. It has rules. It has principles. It has laws. And we have to follow those. We have to understand their truths about money. And I teach what I call the 5 truths about money that we have to know and we have to follow, because Mother Nature's money laws requires us to follow them. And if we break them, we're going to deal with the consequence of breaking those laws. But money is really easy. But at the same time, we have to understand what the money's for. And when we do that, it's really about lifestyle. It's about living and experience and taking care of ourselves and treating ourselves as ourselves and our family and our bodies as our number one investment, and knowing how to invest. So that's where we are today.
Awesome. Wow. So what are the 5 truths?
Well, the 5 truths, I'm going to leave those with all of your listeners, because I actually have this, it's a long webinar. So it's 60 minutes where I really teach these 5 truths. And it's a master class that I'll share with you really at the complete, if anybody wants to listen. And I really break these down because they're fundamentally important. And these are the foundations to wealth building, that if we don't understand the foundation, these like universal principles at work, that are most of what we do when it goes to making and keeping and building money and wealth, we're sabotaging those or breaking those without knowing it. But really, it's organized around 5 areas, and it's understanding these differences. And one is, the first thing is what I call the mindset piece. And we've all heard money mindset, but so many people that teach money just focus on the mindset. But mindset is really what our beliefs, our feelings, our triggers about money. And one of the truths about money when it comes to mindset is, if we have any negative connotation with money, like any negative trigger, when the word money, wealth, passive income, working income, rich, any word that has to do with money, if we have any negative trigger, that means that the money law says that trajectory, that ripple effect of those negative feelings, those negative triggers, are going to produce some undesirable outcome at the end. It's going to sabotage us. It's going to get in our way, somehow. So one of the first things we have to do is get to a place where we have positive triggers about money. Money's neutral. There's no charge to money. Money is just a tool. It's just a currency. It's just something that we use to exchange products and services as this really efficient way to exchange. So money itself has no trigger. It's just whatever narrative we bring to it, whatever life experience we've had with it, whatever we've inherited, or the baggage we've brought forth that's never been examined. So the first thing, the truth is that when it comes to how we feel about money, it matters. We have to get to the place of positive triggers, positive reactions, thinking money is a really good thing, that this is a tool that once we know how to use it, we can do great things. If a contractor has tools, if they don't know how to use the tool, they can't build a house. So you can give me a saw and a measuring tape and a hammer and I don't know what other house building tools. I could have all those tools in front of me, but I wouldn't know how to use those tools to build the house. I'd have to have the knowledge of having those tools. Now, a contractor that has the knowledge and no tools still can't build a house. So money's the same way. Money's a tool. We can use this tool powerfully. We can build the house of our lives in a way that's our shelter, it's our safety, it's our security, it's our space, it's our time, it's our freedom, it's our legacy. If we think of it as a tool, as we build that tool, and as if we learn how to use it. So that's one of the truths, and it's the most important truth when it comes to money. And it's usually the first place and the biggest place for us to do our work.
It makes a lot of sense to me. And you can tell sometimes, you'll meet someone and you can tell that they think, rich people aren't nice, or they've got some sort of mindset about being rich or having a lot of money. And that prohibits them, I guess, from making money.
Absolutely it does, because you can see how that train of thought's going to self-sabotage. Because if we think rich people are bad people, even if it's way back in that subconscious somewhere, but if it's unexamined, which most of our baggage is, or things that are kind of self-defeating, or things, our mindsets, our beliefs, our feelings, our behaviors that are self-defeating in a way, meaning they're producing outcomes that we don't want. Usually they're deeply embedded, they're unexamined, they're almost invisible. So we have to go do some digging and gain some awareness to find out where those things come from. And then we can change them, then we can reverse them, and snap on the spot. We can change our mindset once we are aware and we choose to do so. But you can see that train of thought where if we think rich people are bad people, naturally, we're never going to become rich, because that would mean we're a bad person. So we can see that even though we know we want money and need it, we're going to be doing something that's going to keep us from it, because that subconscious, that thing that's happening in the background is so strong that will defeat ourselves. There's no way, unless we're okay, I'm going to be a bad person. And tell me what good person wants to be a bad person? No one. So yeah, those are those places. And just to see, kind of go backwards and see, okay, if I were to play that whole thought out, what future would it produce for me? And is it the future that I want?
I love that. So after you accomplish the mindset, what's the second law?
So the second law is that money has a methodology, money has a model. There's different distinctions and categories of money that and it's a little bit of a Rubik's Cube. This is what we don't understand with money, that it's like a Rubik's Cube. It makes so much sense. Money in, we make some money and we pay our bills. Money in, money out. Like, really, should it be so complicated? But it is more complicated than that. And if we don't understand what I call the Rubik's Cube of money, we just have a Rubik's Cube. We're trying to turn different directions to, well, that didn't work and this didn't work. And now, you're just going crazy trying to get this Rubik's Cube to line up. But you can't, if you don't understand the model, that there is actually a pattern to put the Rubik's Cube together. Anyone could if I put a Rubik's Cube in front of you, it would be very difficult for you if you didn't know the pattern, the puzzle, the pattern to put the Rubik's Cube together. It's almost impossible, or you'd need so much time to try to figure it out on your own and if that was the Rubik's Cube of your life that you had to figure it out, you'd waste so much time just trial and error, hoping and praying and keeping your fingers crossed at some point that you'd figure it out. Well, money is that way. Money is a little bit of a Rubik's Cube. But once you have the pattern, you just twist it according to the pattern. And I could give you the pattern to the Rubik's Cube right now. If you go online and you look at what's the pattern for putting on a Rubik's Cube, you can find it. Just Google it. And then you practice with it. It takes a little while. But it's the time it takes once you know the pattern to keep trialing and error according to the pattern. It takes a little while to learn it, but once you have it, then you can do the Rubik's Cube faster. Then you can do the Rubik's Cube with a blindfold. Then you can do the Rubik's Cube behind your back. You can continue to increase your skill level, but that you can't increase your skill level of putting the Rubik's Cube together until you learn the pattern first. So money has a model. Money has a pattern. Money has these distinct sequences that you have to follow. And I call that earn, spend, and invest, and understanding that there's these three distinct categories of money, and we have to get good at all three. And like in the health world, if we think about it like a body, and anybody that follows more integrative medicine as opposed to more traditional or segregated medicine, that we understand is that we have these different organs of the body. We have our brain, we have our heart, and let's say we have our lungs. And all three of these are very distinct organs, and all three of them work in a way very distinctly. We need our brain for cognitive power. We need our heart. We need our lungs they have three distinct functions and uses for our body, but they don't work alone either. Like, they're all interconnected and integrated. So they need each other. So in other words, if we have a very healthy heart and we have healthy lungs, but we have a diseased brain, then our diseased brain our body's not going to function very well. Even though our heart and our lungs are really strong, optimally healthy, our diseased brain, which is what I had when I got sick, for example, is keeping our body from being able to fully operate, to be optimized, to work really well so that we can use our bodies to be healthy and happy and vibrant and live and love and so on and so forth. Or vice versa, if we have a healthy brain, but our heart's not working very well, you can see how it works. Like one system out of order affects the entire system.
Yeah.
So money's exactly the same way. Is we have these three organs of money. The first organ is what I call earning. And everybody's just in the earning game, thinking like I did, if I just earn more money, that will be the answer to all my problems. Well, earning money is like just the brain. It's the brain side of the money body. But it can't work independently. Like just working on making more money is like just working to take care of the brain and optimizing the brain health and not worrying and not taking care of the lungs or the heart. So that's one category. Yeah, we have to get good at earning. We have to get good at building businesses, understanding the financials of how money operates in a business and earning more and how, and that's a game. That's a game in itself. That's taking care of the brain health. That's the earning game. The second one is the spending game. And we have to learn how to spend. And this is where most people break down. We don't know how to spend. Almost everyone, all of my clients that I talk to, they come to me because they're having financial problems. They're making great incomes. All of my clients make over $100,000 a year. The average of my clients make $250 a year. So they come to me in financial crisis, yet they're earning high incomes. And they come to me saying, I don't understand. We're making all this money. Why are we broke every single month? Why am I having all this crisis and conflict with my husband? And we're breaking down and we just can't get ahead. And I just feel like I'm on this hamster wheel and in this rat race and I can't get off no matter how hard I try. It's because we're just working on the brain. The breakdown is how we spend. We have to learn how to spend. And there's 5 categories of spending that we have to know. These are money's laws. But when we understand those and we understand how we get rich is not how much money we make. How we get rich is how we spend our money. And we have to spend in different categories, but it's spending this counterintuitive type spending. And it's what I call re-engineering and reverse engineering, even how we spend, as opposed to more conventional way we spend our money. But again, that's our heart of our money. How we spend our money is the heart, is the meaning behind our spending, is how we feel about it, how we organize it, how we tender it, how we take care of it, how we put it away, how we nurture it. The spend is the love in the heart piece of the money. And we have to get really good at that. And once we do, though, it's very easy to do it. But we're spending our way to being broke. We're not spending our way to become wealthy. And we have a choice. And most of it's just lack of knowledge. And when we know that knowledge, it's really easy to do that. But we get rich on how we spend. And then the third category is how we build financial freedom and ultimate passive wealth and income. And that's where space and time freedom come. That's the third category. And that's like the lungs. It's the breathing. It's the respiration. It's the cardio piece. It's the velocity. It's the deep breathing in and out and how it just has this whole life of its own in a way. And that's the lungs, and that's called investing. And the investing, that's where we buy fewer things. We're not buying our happiness. We're buying assets. And over in the asset category, that's this investing piece. Again, that's the lung piece of our money. And first we have to have the money to invest. And then, but then we're learning the investing game, but we understand that that's the breathing, that's this vibrancy that all comes out of the asset side. And the only way to get to financial freedom, to get to the place, and what financial freedom means, the money, the cash flow that comes from our assets replaces the need for our bodies to have to work to make the money. So non-working income from our assets replaces the working income that comes from our body as an asset. That once that matches up, then we can use the money from our asset production to pay our bills and not have to work as much or as hard if we don't want to. And that's what financial freedom is. But that only happens in the investing game. And that can only happen if you know how to spend in a way that allows some of your spending to go towards purchasing assets. But that's the whole money model. That's the Rubik's Cube. And they're all interrelated, yet they're all distinct at the same time. But when we don't understand this, like I said, to go back to the Rubik's Cube, it's just a messy Rubik's Cube that we know should line up at some place, but we have no idea how to line it up.
I love that analogy. And Krisstina, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said we just don't learn this at school. And obviously, you've just taught yourself how to do this, and now you're teaching others. Do you go into a lot of detail with your clients about, I guess, that model in terms of how to invest then and where to get that passive income from?
Yeah, and that's really what I do today. So what I do is I'm an educator, and that's my goal, is to educate, to teach, to offer the knowledge, everything I've learned and applied, and nothing that I teach or share is theory. I've proven it out. I've built my own net worth. I've built my own passive income. I've built my own financial freedom. So what I do and exactly how I teach an exact methodology, an exact framework. I give the exact rules, and I give the exact pattern, if you will, that will enable anybody that follows my work to be able to have the rule book and a step by step. Here's what to turn right and here's what to turn left. And so that by following that, everybody can put their money Rubik's Cube together. And that's what I do, is I educate and teach the exact how to, combined with everything that we should have learned in school that we didn't learn, but that's okay. We can start at any time. And the beauty about money is that once we learn this, it's accessible to everyone. Everyone can do it. I mean, seriously, it's available to all of us. It just takes the time to learn, and then we just have to follow the money rules and put these things into practice. And it's just like if you want a healthy body, there's certain rules to have a healthy body. Whether we like them or not, these rules apply. We can't eat sugar all day long and be healthy. We can do that for some time. We can get away with it when we're younger, but there becomes a certain time of our life when if we continue that type of thing, it's going to have negative consequences. We're going to hit that breaking point. If we smoke our entire life, and some people get away with it, but for the most part, if we smoke and eat sugar all of our life, we're going against nature's rules of what it is to have a healthy body. So if we want a healthy body, guess what? We have to replace the sugar diet for maybe a keto diet or whatever we want to replace it with. But we have to understand that whether we like it or not, that we can't eat sugar and smoke cigarettes all day long, it's irrelevant. Our body doesn't care. Mother Nature doesn't care. But so at the end, if we don't mind being sick and having diabetes and dying of cancer, because the likelihood of that is probably pretty great. If we combine those two things, it's our life choice. We get to choose it. And maybe life is worth it for those times to smoke and eat sugar every day. But if that's not the outcome we want, then it's back to us to go and learn. What do I need to learn about a healthy body so that I have more control and knowledge and ability? And then it's up to me to change those behaviors and live my life according to what others teach us about how to be healthy, which is part of your work and what you're doing, so that we can have healthier bodies. Because we know, and what I learned, I can teach you how to have all the money in the world, but if you don't have your health, all the money in the world doesn't really matter, because you're going to be sick on your deathbed and can't enjoy it anyway. So again, it's just learning that there's these different categories of life. And I think there's these three foundational categories of life that all of us, if we're going to have a good life, we have to get good at these things. Like we have to spend some time, some energy, some money investing in the knowledge and the application of what I call these three foundational games of life. That we have to play these games, and the quality of our overall life and our overall joy and happiness is very much tied to getting good at these three games. And one is the money game, and that's what I teach. The other one's the health game, and that's what you teach. And the other one's the relationship game, and how good we are at relationships, especially at intimacy. And all three of these different games are a little bit counterintuitive, meaning what's more or less what everybody's doing out there isn't working very well. Look at the stats. Money, what let's say in general, we know as a culture, a society about money, it's not working really well. People aren't financially healthy. If you look at the overall normal stats when it comes to health and wellness, we're not doing too well as a society. There's a lot of sickness and disease. So the game we're playing is not working. The rules we've been following isn't working. Like financially, we're not healthy, and physically, mentally, emotionally, we're not very healthy. And then if you look at the divorce rate and you look at at, relationships, how many people are really happy in relationships, the stats aren't very favorable. They're not really good. So whatever's normal out there that we're following, we're doing, that's being taught, or what we're learning or not learning, it's not working very well. So if we want something, if we want to have financial wellness, if we want to have physical wellness, if we want to have relational wellness, we may need to spend some time and energy and money investing in these three life categories to figure out what we don't know, that again, that we're kind of self-sabotaging just for lack of knowing. And again, I just teach the money piece, and I leave it to you to teach the health piece, and I leave it to others that have really mastered the money. And that's my part of my life's work for my own personal journey, is I want to get really good at all three of these to the best that I can, so that I can have as much fulfillment in these three categories as possible.
Well, actually, I tend to disagree, because I think you teach all three of those things, especially through your podcast. You do interview a lot of interesting people about relationships, and I feel like you're definitely working on that yourself. In fact, you even went to the effort of getting a divorce and losing all your money so that you could build it up again and show people how to do it, I believe.
I did do that, and so that's it. And I'm an open book, and I really share my life's journey with those. Hopefully, you can avoid many of these mistakes I've made. It's kind of my hope by sharing it. But yes, that was this on that point where you referred to 2017. As 2017 was a big kind of life crisis for me again. And if I look at my life, like I said early on, I had my financial crisis and that breakdown. So I got really good at the money thing. Then I had the health crisis and realized at first I just thought money was the answer to all my problems. If I got good at the money thing, everything else would work out. I didn't understand the health piece. And I realized oh no, I need the wealth and the wealth. I need the money wealth and the health wealth. So that became Wealthy Wellthy. And just really learning that lesson, my body's my number one asset. Who knew? Okay, now that I know that, I'm going to learn about this health thing, and I'm going to become as healthy as possible. I'm going to reverse my disease, and it's, I'm going to become pretty good at this as a layman, right? Not as something that I teach anyone else, but just for my own. But then I reached my third life crisis, like you said, is in this relationship category, and realized holy cow, now I did very well with the money, and I know how to make money, and I can start from scratch any day, and I understand how to play the money game, so I could start over. I don't really want to, but I could, was where I was, and I understood the health piece, but I reached this place where I had the money and I had the health, but my relationship was passionless, was really loveless, was more or less a business. And I just realized my heart was slowly dying, and that what was the purpose of having all the money and great health if I didn't want to share it with somebody that I was passionate about, that I loved and could feel these things. And so I made a very difficult decision, because financially I was set up. We had done very well together financially. And I walked away from financial freedom. I walked away from my business that I started that was very lucrative, to start over again in the relationship category, and just realized, you know what? And I took a hit, actually, even physically in 2017. It was so stressful and so emotionally painful. And my dad died that same year. So it was a really brutal year. 2017 was really brutal emotionally. And that divorce was much harder than it was. I wasn't prepared for it. Me being the little optimist, I thought it could be easy, and it was horrific. It was just so sad and really, like I said, really painful, while I was losing my dad to stage 4 cancer. And, when we found out he only had 3 months to live, and trying to navigate that, and just understanding that, again, it still was, I can start over financially. Oh, and what I was going to say, health wise, it took a toll on my health. I ended up getting shingles. I ended up, really going through and feeling just anxiety and some sadness again, and things, just being this overwhelm almost emotionally, and wanting to go back to get help emotionally to really go through those pieces. And just understanding that, life is life, and, we have these ups and downs, but ultimately where I am sitting today is in this beautiful place of being in a relationship that really is designed around love, and knowing I didn't lose everything, but I certainly lost my financial freedom. And there's a whole new energy and excitement actually about building the wealth again and being in the game, especially being in the game with my clients and students and followers. Like, I'm in the game too. So I'm sharing with you what I'm going through and what I'm learning and what I'm doing, because my game isn't over either yet, anymore. I've got to build back up, and I'm here to do it with you and share along the way. So yeah, to your point. So in my podcast is I interview experts with my own desire to learn from them and to see what these experts have to say. And like I said, I've got the money thing pretty well figured out. I'm in the game again, like we've referred to, and I'm pretty good at health. And, I realized I kind of pushed myself health-wise again and had to slow it down and take a step back and make that a focus. And now I'm really in the relationship is, what can I learn? What can I apply? What can I get better at? What have I brought forward from my upbringing that's dysfunctional or that, just doesn't work well in relationships? And what's my piece, and how can I grow there? And what can I learn from these unconventional leaders and, especially right now in the relationship category?
I really like how you sort of referred to the 3 foundational games. And that was sort of the reason why I wanted to get you on the show, is because a lot of our listeners are fit, but not necessarily healthy and not necessarily on top of things with money and relationships. And it's interesting because you're familiar with the quote, and I hear it all the time, how you do one thing, you do everything. And I totally disagree with that. What are your thoughts?
That's a tough one. I just know that, to your point, that even being physically fit is just one type of fitness. We need to be financially fit. So, when we can, it's maybe not so much the way you do one thing's where you do everything. I think the way I think about it is kind of fundamentally or universally or nature's way, meaning things are at work that we can't truly understand. They're always just working. Gravity is always at work, whether we understand it or not. That things are pretty much the same for everything in a way, meaning if we just focus on financial fitness, but not physically fit, I know a lot of people in the money and business game that are very financially fit, but their health is a disaster, and so, and they're in some disease state or they're getting very close. So fitness is across the board, or relationally fit. And what does fit mean? It means it feels good. It's healthy. We have metrics for how we can measure that health in a way, either like data that's metrics or field metrics that we can't even put on paper. We just feel it with our heart. Like, we can't measure how we feel. We can't put that on a data point, and all this biohacking, everything's a data point. And I'm like, too much data is too much data. We're like, why are we focused on so much data? Data just is a tool just to kind of give us an overall scorecard of how we're doing in different categories of business or life or relationships. But it's just there, again, to use as an overall assessment. But if we get too obsessed over this and we're missing kind of the key point, and it's just a check-in, it's just a measure, because we're always going through these ups and downs and cycles of life. And some, there's people call it balance. And I don't think there's anything such thing as life balance. What I call it is, I change things to a verb. I call it balancing. And balancing means we're always balancing things. Something in life's always a little bit off center, but that's the joy of life. That's the fun of life. It's embracing the struggle. Why is that a little off balance? Let me do a little digging in here. I don't need to look at the areas that are balanced, that are working so much. I need to still pay attention. Like, we always have to pay attention to our money. We always need to pay attention to our health and kind of follow those universal rules that we talked about. But maybe I'm a little out of balance over here in this relationship thing or over here. And so there's some struggle there. There's some discomfort, or things aren't working exactly. So now, I'm balancing. That's the place where I'm going to focus a little bit more of my attention while taking care. So it's just that these kind of in life categories, we need to be fit in all categories of life, I think, for ultimate joy and fulfillment. And happiness is a state. I mean, we're going to go in and out and above and underneath and around and over the top. And sometimes they're blissful and sometimes it's really painful. But that's okay. That's part of the game of life. As long as we know we're working towards, we're working towards growth. We're working towards learning uncovering something that we didn't know so that we can improve that part of our life until the next part of our life isn't working out. And then we can look at that versus this there mentality that when I get there, then nirvana happens and like all these pieces fall into place and life is perfect. And what's the joy of that? The joy is like, embrace the struggle. Let's get good at this money thing together. Embrace the struggle, embrace the unknown, embrace the fear, embrace the feelings. Sometimes it's shame and guilt or embarrassment when it comes to money because we think we should know something by now. But how the hell or why would anybody know anything about money because we've never been taught? So we embrace that. Great. Today is the day I'm going to decide to get better at this. Today is the day I'm going to lose 50 pounds. Today is the day I'm going to get better at relationships. Today's the day, whatever the day is. And is part of this, what I just call lifing. It's the game of life, and we're lifing, we're in it. And let's just make it juicy and get dirty.
I love that. So I've got to ask you, Krisstina, can you bust a myth for us? I know you get people on your podcast to bust a myth regarding wealth or health.
So a myth when it comes to health?
Or wealth, or both.
Well, my number one myth I like to bust when it comes to money is this belief that the answer to all my money problems is to make more money, to work harder to make more money. And it's fundamentally flawed. I know many rich people that make less than $100,000 a year. And I know many broke people that are paycheck to paycheck that make $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year. We know many celebrities that have made millions of dollars a year and wind up broke and destitute. So the answer is not in the earning game. Yes, we have to earn. Like I said, it's one of the organs. It's the brain organ. But the way we get rich is how we spend. We have to learn how to spend. We have to spend less than we make. And we have to know what's the difference between investing and saving. And we have to know that if we're going to build financial wealth, a portion of our earnings has to go towards investment and a portion has to go towards savings, and we get to spend what's left over, and we have to re-engineer it. That's the truth of money. And I shared two of the truths, and there's other truths that we even need to know to just grow, to build the wealth and understanding, just like health is a lifestyle. You don't just all of a sudden lose 50 pounds or hit certain metrics, whatever your health metrics are, and then you can go back to eating, cereal and Pop-Tarts and cake. It's a lifestyle. We have to choose if we're going to be healthy. We choose a lifestyle of eating healthy food. We choose a lifestyle that has movement built in. We choose a lifestyle that has a little bit less stress in it and be able to manage those different aspects. It's the lifestyle we choose because that's what we want. We want a healthy body, mind, and spirit. And and so we choose meditation practices or whatever we think is part of our model for in lifestyle practices for living a physically healthy life. And on the financial side, the same thing. Building our wealth it's a lifestyle. It's a game. We grow. It's a journey. It grows over time. But we can't not become wealthy. Everybody can become a millionaire. Everybody can become a multimillionaire if they know the pattern. Like I said, if they know the exact way to do it, everybody can do it. We're just not told we can, and we're confused because we believe this myth. All right, I just need to go work harder, just need to go make more money, and that's in my belief is that's the biggest money myth.
Yeah, I like that. So, you've told us the two truths. So you've mentioned mindset and modeling, the Rubik's Cube analogy. We've got three more truths. Are you able to give our listeners an address as to where they might be able to find out more?
Yeah, so I go through all of my truths, and I call them the 5 truths. And truths meaning they're true. And if we accept them as truth, then the question after that would be, okay, if these are true, what would I need to do differently in my life financially to treat these as true? Meaning if I don't do those, there's going to be negative consequence or negative outcome. So I believe these are fundamental foundational money truths, meaning they're laws, they're written in stone, and we have to follow them, especially if we want to build financial abundance. They're the five money truths for creating and producing financial abundance, meaning there's a surplus of money and growth and that financially fit piece. So if you go to wealthywellthy.life, not .com, but .life, wealthywellthy.life/5 truths. It's a 60-minute webinar. When I go through, I write on a board, I go through everything together, and you can take great notes. And there's just filled with nuggets. And then I love when people watch the webinar and they tell me what they think, like what ahas happened or, what nuggets did you get out?
Excellent. Well, I'll definitely put that in the show notes. And I also believe you're running an event in February. Is that right?
I have an event in February, and February is my Wealthy Wellthy event. And so one day is all about money and one day is all about health. And my February event is all about breakthrough. And what I've learned in my life, that no matter where we are in life, we all get stuck somewhere. We all, because life is always about growth, and we always have our next area of growth. And kind of the way I believe Mother Nature works is that when things aren't working in our life, we get some feedback that this part of our life isn't working out very well. So this is the next place maybe where we want to pay attention. So we all get there. And so this is all about breakthroughs. So the first day I'm going to be teaching a lot of what I'm talking about here. But just, I teach, I have a whiteboard or a flip chart. I teach and I share. And so it's about financial breakthrough, money breakthrough, and I'm going to spend a lot of time even on sales and sales breakthrough. And then the second day will be about health wealth, and this is going to be the mindset piece, like really breaking through mindset limitations. And I'm having a few SEALs that are going to be here speaking. One will be just speaking on mindset of super performance and how these SEALs, like the way they think and the way they're trained to think, as super performers, as top performers, like how do they think differently than the average Joe? And, and training and what's brought into that, and which is an important piece of just of really living our full potential. Like what are our fears or things that are really limiting our full potential when it comes to mindset and performance? Another SEAL is going to be talking about the kind of health for wealth piece again, in the sense that, how fragile our psyche is. And one SEAL is going to be talking about the dark side and how that being a SEAL and being at the top of the game, top performance in life or death. We know what these SEALs do for us, and that they put their literal lives on the line, super performers. And then how they're also, though they're very prone to PTSD, they're very prone to the psyche breakdown and how horrible that is. And how do you come out of that? How do we deal with anxiety and depression? How do we deal with super performers as top performers? Some of these more emotional, mental side of things for true mental vitality and health. And especially in this day and age where it's all comparison and we have to keep up and we're experiencing more anxiety and depression than ever before. And how do we cope with that? How do we deal with that? What is, for example, many of the SEALs learning coming out of kind of the highs and lows of life? And then a third SEAL is going to be talking about how to redesign life, because many of us find ourselves in our life and our career where it's a big pivot, meaning what we've done historically is not what we want to do moving forward. And that takes a lot of courage. But what do we do when our identity is really attached to what we've been doing? And I dealt with that. So my entire career prior to getting sick was in real estate. I was the top of my game. I was known nationally. I was known locally. I was at the very top of the real estate game. I was known as an investor. Anybody in real estate that knew Krisstina Wise back in the day. And I walked away from that life because that life didn't call me anymore. After I got sick, I was called to do something else. I was called to do what I'm doing now. But it was a real identity crisis. Like, who am I now if I'm not that? And identity crisis is real, and it takes a lot of courage to walk away. But still, you're dealing with the crisis of that. And that's real for a lot of people that want to change careers or just are afraid or whatever the case is. Like, how do you get beyond that? And a lot of SEALs do that. So they're career SEALs, for example, and that's what they're known. They're known at the top of their game. They're a SEAL. But when they retire at a young age of like 45, then what? Now who are they? And they deal with this identity crisis. If I'm not a SEAL and I'm not out in that world, who am I and what do I do and how do I recover? How do I become somebody again? And really looking at this who am I question, because who we are is not what we do. Who we are is who we are and who we believe we are, and the impact and the purpose we have in this world that can be changed at any time. We can serve a certain purpose for a certain part of our life, and then we can choose for another purpose based on what we think we're here for. But we really have to tap into that and spend time there. And it's scary. And sometimes to make big shifts and changes. I know you've made big shifts and changes, and we just, there's a lot of faith involved in that, but there's also questions to ask and even getting permission. So anyway, I'm really excited about this event and the conversations we're going to have. It's at my house and it's very intimate. What I say is it's a lot of super performers, superheroes that are in the room, but we all leave our capes at the door and we just show up as real people having real conversations about real life. And so that's February 8th and 9th, I believe.
In Austin.
In Austin, yes.
Excellent. And I think a lot of athletes can really relate to that as well, coming from, say, being a professional athlete to then the real world. And so I think that sounds like an amazing event. I'm really excited about it. And I guess before I let you go, Krisstina, I've got to ask you a question that I ask all our guests on the show, actually. Do you have a tattoo?
Tattoo is one thing I don't have, although my daughter is begging me to get a tattoo with her. So ask me same time next year, and let's see if I have a tattoo by then.
What would you get?
What my daughter wants me to get with her is that the company, I have something called Good Life Companies, which is, it's like why we're here. We're here to live a good life and here to figure out a good life as we go. There is no there. And so, like I said, that's kind of the shell corporation of all the different businesses. It's all been under this hierarchy called Good Life Companies. So my daughter wants she and I to get in Arabic is a tattoo that says good life. Do
you know what I think you should get?
What?
Peaceful warrior, because that's what whenever I hear peaceful warrior, I think of you.
It's so funny you say that, because one of my favorite books of all time is called The Peaceful Warrior.
I know. And that's why it reminds me of you. And I think, I think in Arabic, I'm sure there's some peaceful warrior characters that sums you up.
You're awesome. Well, thank you. I like that, actually.
Excellent. Well, look, thanks again, Krisstina, for coming on the show. Really appreciate it and really value your time. I'm going to put everything in the show notes so that our listeners can check out your 5 truths and more about your event.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
For all the resources and show notes from today's episode, please go to www.ally.fitness. If you liked today's episode, please show your appreciation by going to iTunes, give us a 5-star review and subscribe.